Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines, where I'm very pleased to have on the show for the very first time Chandler Loupe. He is the Metro Council person for District 3, but also just elected unanimously by the Metro Council as Mayor Pro Tem. He's going to talk to us not only about that, but also the very tragic day that his 15-year-old son was shot in the chest and paralyzed, and how his family has risen above that, and he's been lifted up by so many people who frankly kept the family in his prayers. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Chandler Loupe. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Hello, welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm very pleased to have on the show today for the first time Chandler Loupe. Chandler, thank you for joining us. Chandler is the Mayor Pro Tem for the Metro Council.
Yes.
Tell the folks how that came about, because you're a lawyer. Give them some background on yourself.
I made the decision, I guess, about 4 years ago to kind of dip my toe into politics, and so I ran for the Metro Council because it is really a part-time job, and so I could continue to be a lawyer.
You thought.
I did. But it was law is my passion, and so I wanted to get involved in the process. And the first 2 years, I guess, if you asked me if I was going to run again, the answer was no. I decided to give it another shot, and then, I was blessed to have everybody elect me as Mayor Pro Tem.
And Chandler, it's interesting too, because, you decided to run after you went through what I would say every parent's nightmare, which I'm sure was a very thoughtful decision. Tell the folks what happened when your youngest son, Thomas, was shot in the chest.
Well, it was February 3rd, around 5:30 p.m. that we got a call that's, that call that I guess every parent's nightmare.
Amen.
And my wife got it, and I remember her saying, it's like it happened yesterday, but I remember standing next to her, and she kind of collapsed. And so I picked up her cell phone, and there was a nurse at Our Lady of the Lake, and she said, "Your son's been shot." And of course, I wanted to find out immediately, was he alive or dead? And she said he was conscious when he arrived, but that's all we can tell you. And so, we got in the car, and the drive there, I really don't remember. And then I get there, and the first thing I see is him rolling down the hall, going to get a CT scan. And he's pale, white, and his feet are raised. And being a lawyer, dealing with doctors, I knew what that meant, that he was losing blood. And, I remember it was like it was yesterday, and it'll be a year on February 3rd, so it's coming up.
Painful.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So was he conscious on the stretcher in the hall? He was. And I'll never forget what he said to me. What did he say?
He said, "Dad, I'm sorry, and I'm paralyzed." 15-year-old kid.
So truly the parent's nightmare.
Yep.
So tell me what happened. Did they have to do surgery?
No, they didn't. The bullet hit his lung and then went through his spinal cord at the T10 level, which you and I probably know what that means, and some of the other people watching. It's about his mid-chest area. It severed his spinal cord, and he's paralyzed from the waist down. So we spent 7 days in ICU, which, for any parent that spent
lifetime.
Yeah, it's just miserable because there's monitors, alarms going off. I always remember that heart monitor, when the alarm would go off. But we made it through that. And I have to thank the people at Our Lady of the Lake. I mean, just fantastic. The doctors, the nurses, everybody. And I don't think I've ever done that. Eventually, I want to take Thomas back there to visit the people that we, spent probably 7 of the hardest days of our life with.
How long was he in the hospital?
He was in ICU 7 days, and then I was able to arrange to have him transferred to, what I think is his best spinal cord clinic hospital in the country. And that's called Shepherd's Spinal Center. It's in Atlanta, Georgia, and they changed our life.
How'd they change your life?
Well,
it's quite a statement.
It is. You go there knowing that your son has this huge disability and will have it for the rest of his life. And over the course of 2 to 2.5 months, that facility makes you realize, one, that you're lucky compared to a lot of other people in that facility.
How so?
Well, there were kids Thomas's age that were paraplegics.
Meaning none of their limbs work.
Neck down. 2 kids in the room next to him were high school wrestlers.
Oh my gosh.
One had hit the wall and one had hit the mat the wrong way. There was a gymnast there. And, Thomas has complete use of his upper body and his hands. These kids didn't. And, they would trade spots with Thomas tomorrow. So, this facility teaches Thomas that his life's not over, that he can still do good things. And then it helped us as parents to know that, I can have grandkids one day from Thomas. That he can work, he can do a lot of things. He went water skiing that summer.
Wow.
Yeah, at this facility's camp that they put on every summer.
So it shows you that there's life. You're looking at the glass instead of half empty. It's.
I got a picture of him smiling on this water ski designed for quadriplegics in a lake, and he's having the best time of his life. And that's certainly how he's approaching it. So I can't approach it any different. I mean, I'm not going to bring him down.
What a gift.
It is. It is.
So, because we've talked about this a little bit.
We have.
Not significant, huge, overwhelming depression that just shuts you down. I mean, I'm not saying you didn't have, those thoughts, but
right.
This place said that's not the way to think.
No. And from Thomas's standpoint, he's the bravest kid I've ever met because he's never complained. He's never whined, felt sorry for himself. He's never done any of that.
Amazing.
I mean, he hasn't, and it's been a year. Now, maybe he'll face those issues later, but he's my hero. I mean, he really is.
Chandler, tell the folks how y'all's faith has carried you through. And then you've talked about somebody coming up to you yesterday and saying, I've been praying for you guys. You didn't even know. It happens,
Locke, it happens every day. A stranger that I don't know will come up and say, at so-and-so church in Central or Zachary, and I don't spend a lot of time out there, we've been praying for you and your son and your family. I'm like, thank you. I mean, what else can you tell somebody like that?
Keep doing it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's working. It is. And so that's a blessing. I mean, it happened to me yesterday. A man I had never met, never seen, stops me in the street when I was by the courthouse. Said, hey, I just want to tell you, we've been praying for you and your family.
And your son is having the same experience himself.
I think he is. I think he is. Thomas is a real quiet kid. He has a lot of friends, but he's having the same experiences. All
right, we're going to continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Chandler Loupe, Mayor Pro Tem. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm very pleased to have on the show today Chandler Loupe. He is a Metro Council District 6, as I work. Three.
Yeah.
But also Mayor Pro Tem, who is the fellow who takes over if the mayor's incapacitated, and you basically kind of administrate the Metro Council. And you're taking over from Mike Walker, who was term limited and ran against the mayor and lost, and you were elected unanimously.
I was.
And were unopposed when you ran for your district this time.
Yes.
Fantastic. Let's transition a little bit, because you just described an absolutely life-changing experience for your family, and you are in a position of power, political power. And tell the folks how just experiencing having a, quote, handicapped person, somebody who needs a wheelchair, how having our society address that matters.
You never noticed it before. But the first thing, like when we go to an airport or a mall or a restaurant, is to figure out how he's going to get where he needs to get. So we look for elevators, we look for ramps. And that's something that, until this happened, I never noticed. I mean, I took escalators at the mall or the airport, but you definitely appreciate it when you're in that situation. So that's given me a whole new perspective. And I get emails from handicapped people in Baton Rouge.
Really?
Yes, saying there's no wheelchair access at the River Center for this particular venue. And I'll look into it and see what I can do to help them.
Interesting.
So, God, whoever you want to blame for it, has put me in a position to help other people with similar injuries.
Amen.
And I think God has kind of led me down that road, and that's one of the reasons I chose to run again.
The other issue is crime, because a serious crime was committed here. I mean, the young man has been charged with attempted, second-degree murder.
Right. And
charged with 4 counts or 3 counts of robbery, armed robbery.
Yeah.
And so crime obviously is a big issue, not only for our city, but for you individually. You've experienced the consequences of it.
I have.
I've done a lot of interviews with our law enforcement personnel, and they've discussed things or issues that they've run into, or hopes that they would like to see changes made or addressed. One of them being the jail. What are your thoughts on the jail?
The misdemeanor jail?
Correct.
I think the program that we did last year with the 3-week moratorium, or give them incentive to come in there and take care of it, was a good idea. I'd like to see us do that once a quarter, meaning we open it for a 3-week period every quarter, and then enforce warrants before and enforce warrants after, so people know we're actually serious.
It's a grace period.
It is. But the number of outstanding warrants we have, a lot of those deal with traffic tickets. Should we go out and lock up somebody that forgot to pay a traffic ticket? No. It costs more money to house that person for a day or two than the traffic ticket is worth. So there has to be some balance on all of these misdemeanor warrants. How that happens, I'm going to leave that up to law enforcement, but I'm for opening the misdemeanor jail. We have way too many outstanding warrants. And a lot of times you do catch that career criminal by enforcing that outstanding misdemeanor warrant. But then again, you get that high school student who forgot about a parking ticket or a traffic ticket, and I'm using a real life example from a constituent who got locked up, and his parents couldn't get him out of jail until 1 o'clock the next day.
Wow. For
an outstanding speeding ticket. So there has to be some balance.
And so you would dedicate or ask, I guess, is the mayor the one that has to put this as an issue, or does the Metro Council have the power to say, we want the jail opened up and we're going to fund it for every quarter of the year and provide the revenues?
We don't have any power over the revenue source to fund it. So that would be something we would have to work with the mayor to do. But just as the last program was successful, these processes tend to pay for themselves.
Right. I think the numbers I saw on the 2 occasions it's been
we made money.
Yeah, like 300 or 400%.
Right.
So makes sense.
It does, from a budgetary standpoint, from a crime standpoint, from a law enforcement standpoint. Right. It all makes sense.
Because all of those law enforcement folks indicated that, you know, it's good for the criminals or the violators to know that there's a consequence if you violate the law.
Absolutely.
And likewise, morale for the police officers, that it's good for that to happen. So I'm glad to hear that.
Sure.
Let's talk about more boots on the ground. That is, that we have more police officers on the streets and sheriff deputies on the street. What are your views on that?
We definitely need more police officers. The sheriff said that. Chief White has said that. We're getting 40 new officers through this academy. We're supposed to have another mid-year academy with about the same 40. That alone takes care of the attrition.
Meaning we're losing that many folks off the force.
Correct. They're going to retire, quit, for whatever reason. The number's around 70.
Wow.
So we're getting 70 and we're going to lose 70.
So we're treading water. We're not increasing the number of police officers available to help us address crime.
Not yet.
So how do we do that, Chandler?
Well, you have to have more police academies. But, you know, this may sound silly from a conservative fiscal Republican, but if you offer a police officer $40,000 as starting pay, can you tell me, would you let your son take that job?
Not much, I guess, necessarily. Put your life on the line, or
for
do you
$40,000, knowing that he's going to have to probably work a second job to send his kids to school, to be married, to do all those things.
I mean, that's basically what the chiefs have told me, is that these guys putting their life on the line
for $35,000, $40,000.
Right.
I have great respect for anybody that wants to do that.
I mean, it's a service, public service.
Great respect, but we have to increase the start-off pay.
Plus, there's competition for officers because you got the federal government and our state government that vies for these folks.
Well, if you increase the pay, starting out, you're going to have a bigger pool of applicants, and you're going to be able to pick, hopefully, the better qualified applicants in that pool. And then the other problem with the pay structure for city police is when you get to the 15-year level, you know, a lot of these seasoned officers are getting offers from federal agencies that, one, have better benefits.
Right.
They don't have to work a second job, and they make more money. So we're having trouble getting officers and keeping officers. And from a fiscally conservative Republican, that needs to be addressed.
So it sounds like we got to increase revenues.
Yeah, you have to pay them more money.
Okay.
It's not a hard formula.
So where does the money come from? Are there resources currently available that can be redirected towards that, or does it absolutely just require an increase in taxes somehow?
I think I can always find money in the budget to do that. I really do. I believe that. I don't just say it as a political pundit. I believe that can happen.
All right, fantastic. We'll talk about this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Chandler Loupe. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, pleased to have on our show today Mayor Pro Tem Chandler Loupe. Chandler, let's dive back in. You basically said we absolutely need more police officers. We can't even hang on to the ones we get who are qualified. They're not paid enough, and we need more money, and you think you can find it?
I think in every department in city parish can be either through technology or other cost-saving measures, we can always find the money in the budget.
So how does that happen? I mean, do you ask, is it something the Metro Council instructs the agents heads to do, or the mayor with the Metro Council does it? How does that work?
It has to be a joint effort. There's certain departments that the Metro Council oversees, not very many, and the rest fall under the mayors. And the mayor has, to his credit, done that. I mean, DPW is becoming more technology savvy. You can apply for permits online. You can do a lot of stuff that really we were behind the curve compared to other cities, and now we're getting above the curve. And I think you're going to continue to see that, and that's going to save money. That's going to save taxpayers money, and it's going to save everybody that applies for a permit or does anything. You know, we should be able to pay a parking ticket online.
And so I guess that actually is transferable to all the departments.
Every department.
And so is there a push for that to happen already ongoing?
There is. The mayor is already looking at several departments. The mayor, I think in his last term, that's going to be his legacy, that he's going to make government smaller, leaner, save taxpayers money, and put the money where it needs to be put. I really believe. I had a good meeting with Kip this week, and we're both on the same page on almost every issue that we talked about.
That's really great news. I know you mentioned that he's currently reviewing the departments. I noticed Chief White was one name that came up as a department head being, I guess, reviewed. What are your views about Chief White?
I'm a big fan.
Why are you a big fan?
I think he's very passionate. He's very honest. He does a good job. He probably works harder than anybody in city government.
I agree.
He takes things personal to heart, and he's a good man.
You mentioned he came the night of your son's shooting.
He did. And we never talked about any police work.
He was there as a friend.
He was there as a friend, and he prayed over my son. And the funny story is, you know, Thomas is in ICU. Chief White prays over him, and Chief White's probably not going to be happy I tell this story, but as soon as he finished his prayer, Thomas looked at him and he says, "Is that polo black you're wearing?" And the chief had cologne on, and so Thomas could smell his cologne.
Oh, no.
And it was a big laugh, yeah. But
excellent.
he's a special guy.
And you think he's doing a great job?
I do.
So I guess to the extent any communication would need to be with the mayor, that you would say, in my view, he's done a great job.
Yes.
I mean, that's certainly my impression, and also with my discussions with the other law enforcement heads and folks. But we do appreciate everything that he's doing for our community. Let's talk about Hiller, more of the DA, because you know, if we do get more boots on the ground, police officers on the streets, that means more arrests, and Hiller's folks are underwater almost.
They are underfunded, underpaid, overworked, and people, you know, it's easy to say we want more police, and I am going to continue to say that, but we can arrest as many people as you want.
If we don't keep them off the street, we're not doing much.
If Hiller doesn't convict them and put them in jail where they need to be, we're not doing anything. I think people miss that a lot of times. Now, being a lawyer, you and I both know how important the DA's office is. And I think Hiller is bringing publicity to that in his own way. You know, he's a very humble, hardworking,
I think he lives up there or on the streets at the murder scenes.
You know, he was at the hospital with me. He's at the hospital with every victim. He goes to almost every crime scene.
It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
Well,
I worry about him sometimes.
I think a lot of people are saying that,
Yeah.
but not only for him, all of you guys are really making a sacrifice to serve in the way that y'all serve. And I just want to make that, and thank you, make that comment public, and thank you and all of you folks, the mayor and these law enforcement chiefs, because our community is struggling with this issue. I mean, we're losing young black men every day, it seems like. It's just a tragedy. And there's crime is rampant everywhere, and you guys are trying to tackle it.
We are.
And we appreciate the efforts that are made. Let's shift gears a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You're now Mayor Pro Tem. You got 4 new members on the Metro Council. There's 12 total. Tell me about that. What's your goal for the Metro Council?
Right now we're 7 Republicans, 5 Democrats, 7 men and 5 women.
Uh-oh.
So as you can expect, there's times when we're rather polarized. My goal is to kind of change that because we really all need to work together.
Amen.
But it's going to take time. And I'll probably get blamed for it not happening sooner, but that comes with the territory.
Now you've got a lot of the ladies, they've been there for a while, have they not?
They have. We have one new lady councilwoman, Banks Daniels, who took Bones Addison's spot, and she appears to be diving right in.
I've been very impressed with, because occasionally I'll catch the Metro channel or whatever it is, and those ladies are smart and articulate, and they analyze stuff very well. They're sharp as a tack.
One of my mentors has always been Ronnie Edwards. She works harder than any councilman there. She's more prepared than anybody. She's genuinely one of the nicest people you will ever meet. You really ought to have her on her show because if you look up public service, it says see Ronnie Edwards. I mean, it really does. She's a special lady.
I'll do it then. Tell me about your relationship with the mayor, because you hear all this stuff and read all this stuff about how there was great animosity between the Metro Council and the mayor, and there was horrible communication, which means none took place, if any. What's going on now?
A lot of that sells papers and fills time on the news. In reality, I've known Kip for 22, 23 years.
Good man.
We've been friends. We're still friends. We definitely don't agree all the time, but that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
If I agreed with everything, then why am I there? Why is anybody there? Because at some point, everybody has a disagreement with someone. It doesn't need to become personal.
Right.
And I think we're going to avoid that. And maybe in the past, some of it did become too personal. And I fault myself for that as much as anybody else. But because I'm a Republican and Kip's a Democrat, we still have to work together. We still have to make the city a better place. We still have to...
And have that as a goal.
Yeah. And, I'm fiscally conservative, probably the most fiscally conservative individual in the building. If I see $5 that's not being used right, I just think it's wrong.
That's the way I'm raised.
I mean, if it was my $5, I wouldn't want it wasted.
Right.
And in a way, it is my $5 because I helped pay for part of it. So did you, and so did this audience.
Well, I saw the budget was passed, absolutely in and out, which was so contrary to what seemed to occur prior to that. And it's my understanding that's because information was given and communication took place in a great way.
Can't say that I've ever seen communication going any better. William Daniels has been doing a fantastic job and will continue to.
Fantastic. Chandler, thank you.
Sure.
Great having you on. We'll do it again. This is Locke Meredith, Legal Lines, and Chandler Loupe, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for being with us.